In this video, we're going to create the new and edit actions for our posts. So, to do that, I'm going to jump into the post controller and I'm going to create the new action. So it's going to be public AR new. Now, what's really interesting about this action is I'm actually going to combine the new and the edit into the same view with the same view model. So it's going to be very, very interesting. The way I'm going to do that is there's an overload of the view method that takes in a view name. So I can actually override the convention that the view name has to be the same as the action, so I can reuse a view for more than one action. Sound good?
That sounds like black magic, but I'm willing to go with it.
Alrighty. So I need to go ahead and create the view model for this form. So I'm going to jump into my view models namespace, into my posts file, and I'm going to create the form. So posts form. Now the stuff that's going into this form is stuff that, well, every post is going to need. Stuff like its name, its slug, its content, and so on. So first of all, though, I'm going to go ahead and say public bool is new. And then public int post ID. This is going to be how the view determines if we're looking at a new form or an edit form. Next up, I'm going to create the title, the slug, and the content. They will all be required, and some will have some length requirements to them. For example, the title is going to have a max length of 128, and that's because if we look at our migrations on our posts, our title does indeed have a max of 128.
All right, awesome.
So we're going to say required, max length of 128. Next up we have slug, which will be required, max length of 128. Next up we have content. Content will be required, but I'm also going to say it has a data type of data type multi-line text. The multi-line text is just what it sounds like. It's text that has more than one lines.
All right.
Okay, so this is our posts form view model. So what I'm going to do in the post controller is I'm going to say we want to use the form view and we want to give it the post form view model. But we want to do something special. We want to set isNew to true because we want to tell the form that we're looking at a new post and not an existing post.
All right.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into our posts and let's create our form. So I'm going to create a new view and I'm going to call it form, and then I'm going to delete everything out of it, and I'm going to say model is simple blog areas admin view models posts form. All right.
That's working for me.
Next up, I'm going to create the title. The title is going to be model.isNew question mark create post update post. Now this ternary operator simply determines if the isNew is set to true. If it is, it'll have a title of create post, otherwise it'll have a title of update post.
Perfect.
Next up, I'm going to open up a form. So I'm going to say using HTML begin form. Now it's important that I actually specify the action name and controller name that I want to post to. If I don't specify that, then it'll try to post to itself, which means it'll try to post to new or it'll try to post to edit. And that's not what we want. We want it to post to the same action, and that's going to be the form action. So we'll say post to form on the controller posts. Now that action doesn't yet exist, which is why it's red.
Alrighty.
Then I'm going to say if the model is new, or rather if the model is not new, and remember I don't have to add the @ symbol there because we're already in the context of C#. I'm going to create a hidden for post ID so that when we post to the form action, it knows that we're indeed posting to a or posting to an update instead of a new.
All right, gotcha.
Next up, I'm going to put in our token, our anti-forgery token, of course. And then I'm going to do something a little different. I want this to be a 2-column layout, which is going to be really cool to implement. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to create a div class of row, which is a bootstrap thing. Then I'm going to say div class call large 8. So 8 large column. Then I'm going to create a class call large 4. This is taking advantage of Bootstrap's grid system. The grid system allows us to place any amount of columns in a single row as long as their numbers add up to 12. Since 8 plus 4 is 12, we can do this. On the left column, we'll have a fairly large column, and on the right column, we'll have a column that's half the size as the large one.
All right.
Inside the left-hand side, I'm going to put in our validation summary. Then I'm going to put in our form groups, which is going to be just like how we did before with our users. We'll have a label for title. We'll have a text box for title with a new, whoops, not a new dictionary, just a new anonymous type, class of form control. All right?
Okie dokie.
Then I'm going to paste this twice because we have 2 more properties to do. The first one is slug, which is going to look the exact same. And the final one is content. Now content will be almost the exact same, except for, instead of text box for, we're going to have text area for, which will make it into a text area control as opposed to a text box control.
All right, gotcha.
Okay, next up, we have to go into our right-hand column, and I want to put the submit buttons on it. So I'm going to say div class panel, and we're going to do panel info. Then we're going to have div class panel heading with post actions. Then we're going to have a div class panel body, which inside of this, we're going to have our buttons. So I'm going to say, if model is new, if model is new, then I want to go ahead and create a button that says publish post. Otherwise, I want to save post. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to use a ternary for this. I'm not going to use an if statement. Why was I even thinking that?
I don't know. You were having crazy moments.
I know. Okay, the value of our submit button will be a simple ternary. It'll say if model is new, we'll say publish post. If it's not new, it'll say update post. Then we're going to give this button classes. We're going to give it the class of button, button success, button small. I like small buttons.
I don't even know what to say to that.
All right. Next up, we're going to create a backlink. So I'm going to say ahref URL action index or cancel.
All right.
Next up, I'm going to put in, well, no, I'm not going to put in that button yet because I was thinking about getting ahead of myself real fast, but we're not going to worry about that quite yet. Sound good?
That sounds good. Don't get ahead of yourself because then you're looking at you.
Right. Okay, so now that we've done all this, if we compile this and come up here and refresh and hit the create post button once it refreshes, we get our form.
Very nice.
But when we post our form, nothing happens. In fact, we'll get an error because there is no action that the post form is posting to. Or the form
What
is
can we
posting
do?
to. Well, we can create the action.
That sounds like fun.
It does. It is. Just watch. All right, we're creating a public AR form that takes in a post form. As far as the attributes on it, we'll have HTTP post followed by validate anti-forgery token, of course.
Of course.
Then what we're going to do is we're going to say form is new. We have to recalculate whether or not the form is new, but we do that very easily because we can say form is new equals form.postID is null. So if the post ID is null from the form, it's a new post.
That works.
Next up, I'm going to say if not model state is valid, then return view form. So we'll just post back to it and they can see their errors.
All right.
Next up, we have to actually create our post. So either we load the post up from the database or we create a new post. So I'm going to say post if form is new, then post equals new post with the following parameters set. Created at will be date time. I just brought in using system at the top. The created at will be date time. The user will be auth.user, the currently logged in user. And that's all we need to set on it. If the form is not new, if we are not publishing a new form, what I need to do is I need to get a post from the database. So I can say post equals database dot session dot load post of form dot post ID. Then if post equals null, that means it wasn't found. So we can say HTTP not found. If post is not null, that means we can update its updated at to datetime.utcnow.
There you go.
So now we have our post model, so we can finally update its title, its slug, and its content. So we'll say post.title equals form.title, post.slug equals form.slug, and post.content equals form.content. Then we're going to do database, session, and we have a problem. We have a problem, Steve.
We have a problem.
Remember when we created our users controller, when we created a user, we did database.save or session.save, and when we updated the user, we did session.update?
Uh-huh.
This code path that we're looking at right now actually handles both saving a new post in the case of post form not being new, or updating a post in the case that there was a post ID.
Okay.
So how do we tell an nHibernate to save a new copy of an entity if it doesn't already exist, or update it if it does?
Oh, that is a fine question that I can't possibly answer.
Well, fortunately for us, it's actually very easy. There's a method called update or save or update.
Wow. Yeah, I really should have taken a shot.
I was kind of hoping that you would, but
6 hours ago I would have.
alrighty. So we do save or update, which will save the entity as a new row if it doesn't exist, or update it if it already does. Then we simply redirect to action index. So now if I hit F6, we should be able to use this form to create a new post. Let's see if that happens. Publish post, and hey, look at that.
Look at that. We have a new post.
Indeed. It's also apparently 4:58 a.m. in England.
Oh, well, of course it is. That's not right.
Well, in England.
Well, I guess depending on where in England.
Greenwich?
All right. All the people I know there, it would really be more like 7 a.m. But
Well, then something's wrong with my UTC dot or datetime.utc now then.
or my memory.
It could have to do with
entirely
daylight
possible.
Yeah, it also could have to do with daylight saving times, which, by the way, really should be outlawed.
Yeah.
I hate daylight
Yes.
saving time.
Well, it was for farmers before we had, electric lights. It's a little outdated.
It's terrible. It's probably one of the worst things on this planet. Anyway, let's go ahead and implement our edit. So we already have inside of our index a link to the edit action. We just actually don't have the edit action implemented. Fortunately for us, we only have to implement the edit action because the code that saves the post after it's been submitted is already written for us. So all we have to do is say public AR edit int ID. We have to try to grab a post out of the database. So we'll say var post equals database session load post ID. If post does not, or equals null, sorry, return HTTP not found. Otherwise, we want to return view form with a new posts form view model where we're going to say is new is false, post ID is ID, content is post.content, slug is post.slug, and title is post.title.
Alrighty.
Now if I hit F6, we should be able to edit all of our posts. If I come back here and hit refresh to get our web server spooled back up again, I can now edit something, and let's call this new post ASDF-G. Update post. Look at that.
And look at that. That is wonderful.
Alrighty. So I think that pretty much wraps up the saving and editing of posts. Now we haven't talked about tags yet. Tags will be in their own separate video because we're actually going to be implementing a really slick little tag editor. So I think, but for this video, I think we're about done.
Excellent.
So what do we do when we're done?
We have to commit.
We commit our code. So I'm going to go ahead and stage those changes, go to commit, and I'm just going to say we created new and edit actions for the post controller.
Very nice.
Hit commit, and we are done. So we'll see you guys in a little bit.
Excellent.